there's no doubt there's a different mentality and aggression in the secondary because of Patrick Surtain.
Right. I agree.
There's no doubt that guy has changed the way they think about playing defensive football, the way they roam the secondary. I know he calls it zone eyes and all that. They are so much more aggressive to the ball. And what I got mad at last year when I started ripping Woodson was that you would see guys stand in an area if we tried to play zone, and they never thought to attack the ball.
Well, and that's been going on now for several years.
It was so frustrating.
It was a hallmark of the Harlan Barnett defense as well. And it's
unreal.
Like, we're in a zone, so I'm going to stay right
here.
Patch of grass it's like when I was like when Alexa and her girls basketball teams, when they were like 12 years old, and they'd be in a zone, and somebody else is running free to the basket. It's like, oh, no, you have to move to get in front of that player, wherever the threat is.
The fluidity of the game requires you to actually move. It's not in theory. You're playing the game now.
I agree. And so it looks like they've gotten better. We saw some signs of it getting better last year. Greedy Vance had a couple plays where you saw him, guys coming off of their zone and making plays, but you've seen it a lot more recently.
Almost from day one. Like when we went out there, and obviously I've kind of been keenly watching that because I was an advocate for getting rid of Woodson, but I wanted to see what Surtain would bring. I didn't know anything about him other than his playing career. Obviously, I never watched him coach high school football, so I didn't know. I knew of his accomplishments, but I wanted to see, was there anything appreciably different or noticeably different? And I think from like the first time they put on pads, you could even without pads, you're like, oh man, they made everything difficult. That's one of my favorite parts about camp is that the competition that we expected to happen has been real.
I also think, isn't it good? Like when you have some guys making those plays, it becomes contagious. Right. It's like guys realize, oh, we can do that. And you brought in some guys that will go get the ball. Even though I really like the young guys, but Quindarius Jones is a freshman. We don't talk about him a lot.
Yeah, he's good player.
I don't know how much he's going to play because they're good and experienced at corner, but he's a guy that you don't have to tell him to go get the ball. He's going to go get the ball.
No, I agree with that.
And they have, Fuller mentioned it after the scrimmage that he said they had 200 snaps last year where they played either 6 or 7 DBs. I don't remember a lot of 7 DB looks, but I'm sure they had a few. Well, they have enough guys. I mean, you think about the experience they have with Renardo Green, and let's just say the starters are Green, Cypress, Brown, and Dent. They've all played football. Shaheem's the only new starter there. But you also have Jarian Jones, Greedy Vance, Azarie Thomas thrown into the mix, and Kevin Noles.
Right.
That's 8 dudes that have played a whole bunch of football, and we like the freshmen. They're probably, like Ira said, they won't play a lot early. They might not play at all this year because there's 8 DB. We talk about the offensive linemen all the time and those 8 guys. Well, you've got a rotation of 8 DBs that have proven they can play at this level and make plays. And that's just again, it's a luxury to have. And I think there's a chance Azarie has taken a real step. I don't know if he's going to start, but I think he has taken a real step and is going to play a ton of football. He's, other than Renardo Green, who's just Mr. Solid every day, I think Azarie has been the best guy in the secondary.
He's been really, really consistently good. I also think, by the way, you mentioned him, Kevin Noles is going to have a good year. I'm happy for him. I really kind of given up on him, which I alluded to at the start of the show when we were talking about guys that we underrated. I guess I underestimated that he was trying to play through injury, probably lost some confidence along the way. And then he was out of position. There were a lot of things wrong with the way he played last year. It was disappointing because he was so good when we first saw him. So he's put on weight. He's stronger. He's playing more aggressively. That speaks to confidence. I think he'll play well. And a lot of the young guys, and I brought this up, you have too, you just don't know when they'll try to get them in games because they are so young. And they play 2 really good teams in their first 4. But I'm going to guess in the back end of this schedule, you see a ton of the young guys.
Right.
Ton of them. Because they're going to be in situations where they're blowing teams out.
Well, and the thing is, I think when you look at like Conrad Hussey, Edwin Joseph, some of those guys, Quindarius Jones, KJ Kirkland, and our guy Ashlyn Barker.
Yeah, I
really
love him.
Like him a lot.
Love him.
The thing about DBs is they can, maybe you don't want them out there as true freshmen, but you don't have a big problem putting them out there next year.
Sure.
And you're going to be losing a lot of these older guys, several of these older guys. And so, I think they're going to get them on the field a lot. I think you're going to see them on the field a ton in special teams. And those are special dudes, man. Those aren't, again, like a couple years ago, you just felt like you had a lot of smaller DBs that had to play big. Well, these are bigger dudes. Especially Quindarius, KJ Kirkland, and those guys, they've got length.
Ashley Barker has been really
rangy.
Yeah,
I like Barker. I like Barker.
I like him a lot, man. And that first day, I kept telling myself, "What are you?" why are you so excited about watching this Ashland Barker kid? Because I didn't have any expectations for him. And then the next day I thought he was good. And then the next week I thought he was good. I'm like, well, at some point I'm just going to say this kid's really good. I know that we love Kirkland, which we should. And I just got done talking about Noles, and we all know Shaheem Brown's going to be the starter and all that. But, you start looking around, you're like, man, Ashland Barker looks like he could play. Conrad Hussey's a freshman. He looks like he could really play. There's a lot of guys that you would want to see get out there. Quindarius, who you just mentioned. And, yes, Corey, I think you're absolutely spot on when you say Azaria Thomas has been awesome.
Yeah, the one question I have after watching 3 weeks of practice, though, is I have not seen, and it's hard for me to judge. I'm not a defensive coordinator. I'm not watching the all 22s. I haven't seen great special play out of the safeties. They haven't made a lot of picks. They haven't made – but, again, it's hard to judge. They're not on the field a ton because of the way they rotate in the first string, second string, third string. But, I would have liked maybe I know Shaheem made a couple last week, but I'd like to see a little more out of that, honestly, because Shaheem, remember, 2 years ago was picking off a pass every practice. Haven't seen a ton of that yet, but he's also, quite frankly, he's going against a quarterback that doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. And 2 years ago, he was not.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
A lot of those interceptions were against Tate when Tate was a redshirt freshman or sophomore, or maybe Chubba.
Or Milton.
Chubba. And I think the thing, but no, I think that's the real story. There was a day, was it last week or the week before, where Jordan actually threw 2 picks. That was like earth shattering. Like, he never throws picks.
Right.
So you don't see a lot of it. But yeah, man, Adam Fuller made the comment in the spring that he thought Shaheem Brown could be one of the top defensive backs in the country. We haven't seen that. I don't, and I like Shaheem a lot, but we haven't seen that out of him.
Well, when he has 2 picks and a touchdown against LSU, and part of that huge blowout that we're predicting today, then there it is. It changes everything moving forward from there.
Those LSU fans will never forget the name Shaheem Brown after what
tired
he did
of this son of a bitch blocking extra points, picking off passes. This guy.
Man,
they're going to think he's Sean Taylor.
The corners, you should feel decent about the corners and man coverage, though, against LSU's receiver. LSU Neighbors is a nice, really good receiver.
Really good player.
But you're going up against really good receivers.
Every day.
And not getting embarrassed.
Well, Corey, go ahead and say it as we go to break. What is the iron thing?
Oh, guys, in fact, Maurice Smith said it a couple of times last week. He said he started to say it too. He said iron sharpens iron. Or they actually say iron on iron, which I don't like. I've copywritten sharpening. I have the verb sharpens in there. So I don't like that they're misusing it a little bit, but the sentiment remains. Iron on iron makes, I guess, iron stronger. Is that what it does?
Sharper.
It makes iron sharper. Okay.
Whatever
it does.